Hey guys, how's it going? Um, Today I want to talk about fire. Now, I want to talk about my goal, where I'm at, why I liked it, why I decided, I'm going to try it out, and how to make it work regardless of your earnings and salary. Now, first of all, what is FIRE? FIRE stands for Financial Independence, retire early. And what it means in like a nutshell is save a lot of money, don't spend anything, and retire like at 45 years old or 40 years old or 50 years old. Instead of retiring at 65 when you're old and you cannot travel and you like your knees and your body hurts, retire when you're like 40, 45, go travel the world, go do whatever fulfills your soul, and be done with it. Now, it sounds super cool, but it's not really that easy to do, especially you can be saying like, man, that's stupid, that's impossible to do. It all depends on numbers. It's all about numbers, right? So depending on your salary and the tire you have different options of how to retire and your age, of course. Like for example, if you are 18 years old, if you are 20 years old, you have a way bigger um, range for you to do what you want with this, and you can be like, okay, if I do this, I can do this. If I move here, I can do this. Now, I'm gonna talk about my journey and where I read about it. Now, the first time I read about it was on Reddit, in a financial forum, something like that. Then I started looking for some videos about like percentages and rules, and I was like, okay, this sounds good. Now, one of the major things that I see everybody talking about is the 4% rule. So the way it works is like you start investing your money in stocks with good dividend. Dividend is basically like every certain pay period or every certain period, these stocks, just because you own the stocks, they will give a percentage of money to their holders. So let's say you have a stock that is like $50, right? And it has a 4% return on dividend. So 50 times 0.04, you get $2, for that stock every year, and you divide it per period. So I mean that doesn't sound like a lot. $50 for a stock and you get 4%. That's $2 every year. But let's say you have, I don't know, 500 stocks. So that would be 500 stocks times $50, $25,000 times 0.02 times 0.04. Sorry. So that would be $1,000 per year that you get just from owning that stock. That does not include, appreciation and other stuff. So the goal is to reach a number that by gaining dividends or by doing other jobs, you can maintain a good lifestyle and not work. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't understand is like just because you are trying to fire doesn't mean you're gonna stop working or that you're gonna stop, you're not gonna do anything. Like for me, I think more like once you reach like a certain point, you can quit your job and like maybe start working part time on what you love, or maybe try to do something else, or just work for fun. Like for example, let's say you're just like walk dogs, or like do Uber for fun, or just rent a house or something like that. That is still some passive income. So the whole thing about this thing is just figuring out a way and numbers to make it work. Now, I'm gonna talk about like salaries and stuff like that. When I was running my numbers in the U.S. to retire, usually you need like around like in an okay, passive, you need like around 1.5 million dollars. So let's say you had 1.5 million dollars, and you multiply that like uh, 0.04 dividend. So that's about $60,000 a year just from dividends. So $1.5 million is the number that they tell you that you require, right? If you want to retire, like to live like an okay life, which is $60,000 per year. Which for a lot of people it sounds like a huge number. And I'm like, man, this is impossible. I'm never gonna be able to do it. Now there are workarounds about it. Like for example, maybe you don't need $60,000 to live every year. Maybe you need $40,000 a year. And in that case, you would need like maybe only $1 million, which I mean is still a big number, but it's less. Now, maybe you live in New York, maybe you live in Miami, maybe you live in California, where the cost of living is super high. The salaries are high, but the cost of living is high as well. Maybe you can move to a place that has like the same salary but a lower cost of living. For example, we are in Texas here where I'm doing this video, and Texas the cost of living is like, it's like average as long as you're not in Austin or Houston, or Dallas. It's like okay, but you can find some really good prices. Like my old apartment used to be 650 for a two-bedroom apartment, and whenever I tell people about it, they're like, "What the hell? That is so cheap." Yes. Plus, you have the engineer salary, which is like a little lower than the average because the cost of living is so cheaper, but it's still that different makes up for it. So you have different ways to approach this thing, and like it also depends on how much money you save, how much debt you have. Like one thing that you want to get rid of, you want to get rid of debt first. That's the first thing ever. If you want to try to acquire fire. Now the second thing after that, you need to run your numbers to see how much money you need to save in order to retire the way you want, and what age. And for that, there's multiple calculators from Smart Asset, from investment pages that they tell you, okay, how much money I need to save based on my salary, based on my age, to have this amount of money at certain age. And then you need to start doing research on stocks that have like historically done good dividends so that you can retire from that. Now, you don't really need to do stocks. You could do like real estate, for example, like a lot of people that I know, they just have like multiple properties and they rent them up, and like that's their income. So you have like 3 or 4 properties, and I don't know, they give you $1,000, $2,000 per month, you're good to go. You can retire already as long as you keep giving maintenance to that. There's multiple ways to approach this. This is just like a little primer, and for me to answer any questions that you might have, or like refer you to forums or like the places that I've read about. Now, another option that you might have is how about retiring to a different country. The US is a good country, but it's expensive compared to other countries. I read about countries with like lower cost of living. Like for example, for me personally, I'm looking at Mexico because I'm from there. So that's like just automatically by moving countries, I reduce the cost of like from like 1.5 million to half of that, 750,000, which is crazy if you think about it. Just by moving a country, you get to live in a beautiful place, do all the things that you want, and you get to travel a lot. And like so, that's another thing that you want to do. Even if you're making 40,000 or 35,000, there might be a way for you to do it. You might just need to save more and like cut a lot of your expenses. Now for me, I'm very frugal. I don't really buy anything. Like most of my clothes were gifted by someone. It's very rare for me to buy clothes. I really don't spend like a lot of like physical stuff. Most of the things that I have is my girlfriend who likes to buy stuff. The one thing that I do spend a lot is on food and on traveling. I like traveling. Whenever I do a trip, I want to have like a good trip. I want to have a fun trip. But those are the only two things. I never spend on like electronics, or like I don't really spend a lot on like clothes or anything else. So maybe you will need to like cut back if you want to try this. But I think it's definitely an exciting journey, and it's definitely something that can free your mind and help you out. Like for me, I feel like if I can achieve this, I'm gonna dedicate more time to working out and dedicate more time like to writing and doing other things that I like. Maybe start like making a side business. That's another thing. Just because you retire early does not mean you have to stop working. Okay? So if you're interested in fire and like you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, give me a like. I really like this thing, so I might start doing more videos on it. Maybe start doing like some guides, recommending some websites, recommend like starting running some numbers and posting them. And I start doing more engineering videos as well. Hope you like this video. Please subscribe to my channel and have a good one, guys.